Yeah, Rich, your story this week really shines a light on the challenge that MSPs have today, keeping ahead of their clients' needs and requirements. And I was just on two different calls today with two different MSP clients of mine that both are struggling with the workload that they have and supporting it with their existing staff and needing to hire more staff and the challenge they're having in getting the folks that they need. So they're looking at solutions that they can basically include in their bundle that come with some labor tied to it. So whether that's cybersecurity or something else, they are relying more and more or looking more and more toward vendor relationships that can actually take some of that labor cost out of the equation. They can lean on them for their expertise and their teams so that they can focus on being as strategic as possible for their client relationships, which hint is a harbinger of my tip of the week here this week. So it's really the way that business is evolving now, not only for the clients that MSPs serve, but the MSPs themselves and how they're structuring their offerings and the vendor relationships that they are looking to engage in so that they can reduce the thing that we talk about a lot on this program, Rich, the vendor sprawl, the platform sprawl, the pane of glass sprawl, right? And allowing the labor that they are investing in from their own team to have as high of a profit margin as possible.
Yeah, and I think that's really key because that issue there, the idea that the most profitable way to utilize labor, is going to be to focus on the strategic issues, to outsource where you can outsource it. That's sort of what economists would call a secular trend. There is also this sort of cyclical trend that we've been talking about for years, where labor is tight, the tech unemployment rate is very, very low single digits right now, and so that puts particular pressure on MSPs to look for ways to stretch the labor force that they have right now. That will change over time, presumably, but that larger issue, that larger evolution, or larger logic that you were talking about there of really getting maximum value from the labor that you invest in, however much that is, that's not going anywhere. And that too, I totally agree. That points in the direction of more managed security services. So Eric, let's move on to your tip of the week, because you were dropping hints before, and now I've got to know what it's all about.
Yeah, it's all about reflecting the true value of the services that MSPs provide to their clients, Rich. We talk a lot in the industry and in communities about, the really reflecting the value that we deliver to our clients and getting clients to recognize, agree to, and appreciate that value in ways that turn into increased profits for the MSPs that serve them and the ability to expand their services within client relationships. Now, I'm not talking, Rich, about, picking the right clients, A, B, and C. We've had those conversations before. I'm talking about making sure that the clients that you want to keep and the clients that have the best growth opportunity for you, structuring a communication and client education strategy to regularly and consistently reflect the value that you bring to the client. And it can't be the same stuff that all of your competitors deliver. The value can't be what's in your solution stack, Rich, because it's getting harder and harder for today's buyers to discern when we're all using and supporting the same SaaS platforms, M365, Google, solutions and things like that. We're all supporting these SaaS applications. We're supporting infrastructure. So the differentiation, Rich, has to be the strategic value. And how do we communicate that to clients? I speak with enough partners that say, you know what? I try to schedule these strategic business reviews with them. They may take the first couple, but then they just ghost me and they don't keep those appointments. Well, hint, hint, they're not seeing value in them. So let's adjust the value proposition and make sure that we are reflecting that value to our clients. How can we do that? 3 quick tips, Rich. Number one, regularly communicating the value, meaning, here's a great example that used to happen to us all the time when we had our MSP practice, Rich, is the clients asking for things and us not reflecting the value of it and or charging for it, stuff that falls outside the scope, or technicians going way outside the scope of our agreement and just doing it because they want to keep the client happy. There's nothing wrong, Rich, with doing something for valued clients and not charging them for it. But where I think MSPs have an opportunity is to reflect the value of what that is, and then communicating that during regular meetings. And then even on the invoices that are being sent out, documenting what we did extra and then showing them what that price would have been, and then doing a no bill at the bottom of that invoice. We don't want to itemize everything, but just basically indicating on the invoice that, hey, we did this additional work provided for, good client relationship or something, and, a discount on that. Something that lets them know, hey, you guys are doing us a solid here. Because one thing I can promise you, Rich, is clients don't remember all the free stuff that we give them, but boy, oh boy, they will remember the last mistake that technician made, right? The last time they were on site. So let's make sure that we are providing regular updates, communications when we are meeting with clients, reminding them, hey, we love the relationship. That's why we went ahead and did these extra things and, and did not bill you for it, right? Something like that. So just keeping that top of mind. Number two, providing some educational content in terms of communications, newsletters, webinars for existing clients, right? That reinforces the value of the relationship that we have, articles and things like that. These are things that typically tend to be the Achilles heel of MSPs, right? Rich, it's like, hey, promoting our value, doing some marketing, let's showing them in our newsletter. Here are the things that we're adding to our solution. Like, here are the things that we are doing to protect your organization, inviting them to a webinar that focuses on a component of the portfolio of services that we deliver to clients and reflecting to them how they can utilize it, what it protects them from, and the value that it brings to them. Number three, if we're doing those things, Rich, we have a much better shot at getting clients to agree to strategic meetings. And these strategic meetings, call them SBRs, QBRs, a strategic meeting that adds value to a client's relationship. We know that there are new and different services and solutions that are being introduced into the channel that are not the typical thing that we see partners including, like ways to increase productivity and efficiency, right? We've talked about this a little bit, Rich. New vendors that are coming in that deal with a component of a business that typically MSPs don't think about, but now can look at and say, hey, I can add that as a strategic value, introduce to my client that helps them achieve a business goal or improve their business efficiency and operations that are maybe not something that we typically think about from a technology service provider. I'm thinking about efficiency improvement and productivity and time tracking solutions, Rich, that we're seeing come on the scene and things like that. But more importantly, lead the conversations around strengthening their cybersecurity posture, ensuring uptime and availability, making sure that we're training them and having in-house or maybe even virtual training sessions on how to identify, suspect emails, kind of avoiding phishing things that actually add value, not just we're here to present you the things that we've done. Please review my report card with me, mom and dad.
It's interesting. I mentioned at the top of the show, I'm here in Dallas attending the 20s Vision Conference. Tim Conkle, the CEO of the 20, delivered a keynote this morning, and he made a point that dovetails kind of nicely with the third of those points that you just made there, which is if you want to be a valuable MSP these days, you really need to focus in he didn't say something strategic. He said, you've got to have a unique value proposition, because the stuff that you think are your strengths, your technical know-how, your great customer service, those are actually the most commoditized things that you do. Everybody has those same strengths, or certainly thinks that they do. And so you need something else that is going to set you apart from everybody else. And absolutely, in this day and age, the more strategic that is, the more it reflects that you are on the cutting edge of technology and keeping your clients there. I think the better off that you're going to be. The other thing I think, or thought, listening to you go through those three bits of advice there, Eric, is just this kind of ties back to a classic old school issue around managed services that I'm sure you experienced when you were a leading edge MSP yourself once upon a time, which is that if you're in the proactive IT business and you're really doing your job well, half the time your client doesn't know you're doing anything for them because nothing's going wrong. And that's what you're doing for them. Nothing's going wrong. And so you have to kind of get good when you're talking to the customer at showing them, well, here are all the patches we applied, and all the threats we interfered with, and all of the tickets that we addressed for you, and just kind of call attention to the value that you're delivering. All of that, I think you're saying, Eric, is table stakes now. You really need to be going above and beyond that and talking to them about the freebies that you're giving them, the strategic advice you're giving them, et cetera.
Absolutely, Rich. I mean, you should be, maybe spending 10% of a QBR talking about what we did for you that is expected, right? Nobody gets an award for closing tickets, Rich. Every MSP closes tickets, right? But it's also that strategic planning and that strategic cybersecurity and compliance discussion and planning. It's like, let's look at your 3-year plan, let's look at your 5-year plan, let's look at where we are now, let's look at growth. Being that true business partner that the MSP's client sees as a critical component to their business operations today and in the future as they grow. Like, you want to be seen as invaluable to that organization's growth, so that when your competitors come a knocking, the client basically refers them to you, right? Because we used to have that happen as well. Well, no, you can go talk to Eric. I'm not interested in what you're selling, and that's a great client.